Here's another keepsakecrafts.net video for House of Gems. Today we're using summery lampwork beads and crystals to make a beautiful bracelet. So to make our bracelet today, first of all we'll need some focal beads, and I've found these lampwork beads at a bead show and I thought they were just beautiful with their summer colors and designs. So I'm going to use these, and then in between them I'm going to use these blister pearls from House of Gems. And then in between all of these, I'm going to use a bunch of 4mm Swarovski crystal dangles. To finish your bracelet, you'll need a clasp. You'll need 2 each wire protectors, crimps, and crimp covers. You'll need head pins for all of your dangles. For tools, you'll need the usual wire cutters, round nose pliers, and chain nose pliers. And other tools that you may find useful will be the one-step looper, the one-step crimper, and crimping pliers. You'll also need about a 12-inch piece of bead stringing wire, and bead clamps are helpful too. So the first thing I did was lay out my main beads on a bead design board just to get an idea of how these were going to fit. And then I decided that I was going to have groupings of 8 crystals in between each of these beads, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces to fill them, so I'll need 64 of these little dangles. And you'll also need the same number of head pins, and you can adjust your numbers depending on the size that you want your bracelet. So let me show you how to make a dangle. These are just little silver-plated head pins. In fact, all my findings today are silver-plated with a ball on the end of the head pin. And here's one way to make a simple loop. You use your wire cutters to cut the wire 3/8 of an inch beyond that wire. And if it's silver-plated or sterling silver, of course make sure that you save the trimmings for recycling. And then use a pair of round nose pliers to grasp that loop, that wire, and make a loop. Bend it back to center it over the bead, and there you have a little dangle. But I have a tool that makes quick work of these dangles, and that's the one-step looper. So we'll once again slide a bead onto a head pin, but you just push the bead right up to this little arm here on the left, and then squeeze. But basically, in one step, it makes your loop for you. Now the problem with this fine gauge wire is that the one-step looper won't close your loop completely, so you just need to bring in a pair of pliers and close that. So the next step is to make as many dangles as you need for your bracelet. So now I've made all of my dangles, and I've also separated them into 8 piles of 8. And so now I'm just going to start stringing on my beads. And I'm leaving this end of the bracelet open in case I need to adjust it for length later on. And so once you have all your little loops made, it's pretty easy to just thread a pile onto your wire and then add your next bead and keep going. And so there, you can see you've got that pretty little cluster of beads in between each of the larger beads. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish stringing all these. So now that I have all of the beads strung, I've realized that I need a little bit more length. These kinds of designs can be tricky because it's tough to calculate just how much space these little strung-on dangles will take up. So I'm just going to add a few silver spacers to each end. So now it's time to finish up our ends. And we just do that by sliding on a crimp, slide on a wire protector, slide part of your clasp, half of your clasp, into the wire protector loop, and then slide the wire back through the crimp. And to do your crimping, you can do it several ways. You can use crimping pliers, you can just use chain nose pliers and flatten the crimp, or you can use this great tool called the one-step crimper, which is what I'm going to use. You just pop your crimp in there. Always, no matter how you decide to crimp, test before you snip off the excess wire. And then if you like, you can cover that crimp with a crimp cover. Crimp cover kind of looks like a donut with a bite taken out of it. And my favorite way of putting those on is to use crimp pliers, because they've got these round bits that will hold on to that. So you just grab your crimp cover, don't squeeze too hard yet. Slide it over your crimp and then squeeze gently. And it just looks like you have a bead there. Repeat to add the other half of the clasp to the other end of your bracelet, making sure that you don't pull it too tight so that your bracelet will hang gracefully.